perhaps you'd like to come and join us in the shade on a chair. Make sure that you're comfortable. We'll be gathered for probably about 20 minutes.
You only bring the best in.
Good. So I just wanted to say welcome to you all to this great moment, this moment of a national tournament, this moment when we open a court. It's great always to be gathered together in this particular combination of people. We love playing, we love watching the game, we applaud those champions, we despair at our shots, and we're here together again. For those who are new to the handball community, you are especially welcome. There are a whole lot of people here who have been playing against each other for many, many years. There's a tremendous rivalry, but there's a wonderful sense of mateship, a warmth in the handshake, a deep friendship when we see each other. It's great to be here today because new champions will emerge. Somebody will be the best in 2014 in a whole range of ways. But significantly, most uniquely, in a sense of great accomplishment, today we are opening a court. I welcome in particular the Executive Director of Australian Handball, acting at the moment, always a performer, Bob Winter, who we know is the President of the South Australian Handball Association as well, and a driving force in creating this moment. I do acknowledge too that Jeff Walsh is here. He's a member of the Hall of Fame. Peter Schreiner is here. He is another member of the Hall of Fame. These are significant handballers, and for their presence we have a great sense of gratitude because they are saying this game is important, and they are famous in handball. I also acknowledge the South Australian Handball Association Life members. Boris Pochu is the president of that group, and they have played a lot of handball in inner city Adelaide. They must be delighted that there is life in handball because of today. I wanted you to know that there were apologies. Brother John Laidlaw couldn't make it and wanted us to especially us to know that he was thinking of us today. Brother John Hearn, in the same situation, unable to make it. Tim Fitz is a past president of South Australian Handball, also extended his apology, and one of the key drivers of this court, Damien Walker, couldn't get here today at the last minute. Ladies and gentlemen, there are significant elements to today. It's a return to inner city handball, and inner city handball in South Australia has been going for 90 years. It's significant that it's back after the sadness of losing CBC. I know that it's significant today because these two handball courts here represent not only an opportunity for Adelaide High School people to play, but for the public to walk past and see it. Represents our gesture to the international game, and one wall seems to be the direction that we're going. I didn't believe it could happen, and I know that Bob will extend his congratulations to people in just a moment, as I do today. But it's a happy moment in gathering. We gather in gratitude, we gather in optimism for handball, we gather in that wonderful collaboration and partnership with handball. I wanted to say to people that have come from interstate, we value very much your presence today. We know that in New South Wales, you've done the same thing by establishing Heffron Park. Victoria is continually refurbishing and finding new courts and trying to build the game. We know that you are working, and we work in partnership, in service and generosity. These handball courts, they are a clear message to the public and to us. So congratulations on this wonderful facility. From these two courts, much will happen. And it's my pleasure now to invite the acting Executive Director of Australian Handball, Bob Winter. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Greg. What a fantastic day. SA handball history right here, right now, and it's great to be a part of it. I've been involved with handball for just under 50 odd years, and no, I'm not going to go through my life story just yet. Not that it's not very important anyway, but I just want to reflect on my involvement which builds up to these courts. For many of the years, as Greg mentioned, we had Wakeful Street in the inner city courts, fantastic courts, along with Ross Trevor up at Ross Trevor. Wakeful Street was our stronghold. As Jim Quinlan, who was here today, christened them the Cathedrals of Sweat. They were just a huge, gigantic three-wall court, and that was our stronghold here in South Australia. We lost Wakeful Street through college redevelopment, unfortunately, and it was a huge loss for us. But in moving to Ross Trevor, our secondary courts at that stage, it worked out to be a huge success because I think it helped our association really gel together in a new environment with new people, and the old was still there, so we had a rebirth at Ross Trevor, which is great. And that's been fantastic for us for a number of years. Both those courts over the years have reflected state titles, carnivals, dramas on and off the court, which we've all enjoyed. But now, with these new courts coming here, they are still part of our past history. Going back to Ross Trevor, it was a new birth when we went there. In 2002, we held our first carnival, and from my cap as SA president, I thought it was one of the best carnivals ever held in Australian carnivals. But with my visitors and with my Australian Handball Council cap on, I know that Victoria and New South Wales in the past also have had fantastic carnivals. So, like today, everyone gets together and enjoys themselves, and hopefully that's what we can do in the future. These new City West handball courts are now the piece de resistance, I think. It opens up a whole new look for handball in South Australia, with the association still maintaining our Ross Trevor courts. However, we need to generate much more interest with these courts, with juniors, to make sure the game grows. That's got to be our agenda from now on. I've briefly outlined in the program a number of players that have assisted in the construction of these courts. And in the program, I do apologise to George Raimondo for saying George Papalia. So, George, I'm sorry, just corrected that in front of everyone. Am I forgiven? So, George Raimondo was mentioned in the program. However, I do want to acknowledge some people. Damien Walker, who's not here today, unfortunately he's got problems with his feet. For years has been at the association, at the City Council doors, looking for a venue in the parklands so we can expand handball. For the last 5 or 6 years he's kept on that aim to make sure that we get a court. Finally, with his connections in the council, this particular venture, and it hasn't been finished as yet, there'll be further redevelopment where the car parks are, with more tennis courts and cricket nets, and more expansion around in other areas, and that's due mid-next year. But in tying ourselves up, Spike got with the council, got with the college, and then served Papalia on the committee at that stage, picked up the ball from then on, and with his band of George and Roger and Claude, put this whole venture, these two walls, together. Not a simple task, I might add. Digging into the ground, getting the council approval, was a fantastic effort. So I commend Serge and those people and thank them for putting the effort in to make sure that we've got this far and that we can continue. I'll hand back to Greg.
Ladies and gentlemen, one of those inner city warriors on the handball court was John Fanning, who played for so many, many years on the three-wall court at CBC. John, you must be amazed today to think that people can still play handball and not scar their knuckles on the sidewall, as was the badge of honour for all those years that you played. But we do play handball without scraping the knuckles. John is a life member of our association. He's an accomplished handballer, an Iconic Cup representative. He's grizzly, dogged, persistent, enduring, and that's just at the pub on Saturday night. He's also a very good handballer, and we wanted to invite him out to just give us a couple of reflections on the past. John Fanning.
Lost the lines. I lost it. I should have been reading it, not having it.
Ladies and gentlemen, past and present players, and maybe a few even future players for this great game. It's truly a remarkable day. As Bob said, history's been created, and it's really an exciting sort of time. The reason that I'm here, Bob, I'm third on the rank. He asked Joe Abraham and Digger McKenzie, but they weren't available, so I was more than happy to sort of fill the bill, even though my memory may not be as accurate but concerning when I think back to the days when I first heard about a vision for a handball court in South Australia apart from CBC or Rostrevor, and that was at a meeting at Jack Foley's, that great tyrant of the handball as far as many of us are concerned, and the energy and so on that he put into the game over the years, but always very firm in his opinions about things. But Jack raised this at a meeting with his offices, which were on the corner of Unley Road and Greenville Road, or may have even been Park Terrace still then, I'm not sure. And so there was great excitement about this possibility. And the next time, so there was discussion naturally about it. The next time that I sort of recalled was that the guys, those senior players, and this would include George's father, Joe Abraham, George Hay, Max Kane, Sid Carroll, right? You know, these guys used to play the game on Saturday. There were no teams in those days. And then the younger guys, of course, had to get on after. And then, of course, we met up with them at the famous Hampshire Hotel down the road, which was in the West End, of course, because this is a very popular support sort of part for us to realise in the history of sort of handball. So there, of course, they'll be discussing and arguing about it and trying to raise money. There were shows at the Irish Club and things like that, trying to raise the money for a development that Jack Foley, he had a piece of land that had the specifications that would have taken a handball court. I never saw it, but it's either in Wavell or Goodwood. Someone may know. Was there anyone here that's ever seen that property? No, right. But I'm sure Joe and those people would have, and I think that's why Bob was looking for someone with a bit more accurate sort of information. But the thing is that there's always been the vision from that day of Jack's, right? The vision to sort of create a handball court apart from the other two places, because as people know, like especially what happened at CBC, the population of the school requires more land, and in a city school, well, our one more court that was there was built that Pat Cronin sort of put together, even though he knocked down the three-wall one, is now with a transportable on it. But there are a lot of people in the association that continue to sort of be fired up by wanting to get a court. I see my mate Nick Kiley there. He had the 303 Club, trying to get some money out of those to build something to get things going. Jim Kiley later on had the 100 Club. And so there was these ongoing situation to sort of raise money. And as Spike has mentioned, well, I certainly think of him selling anyone that went to the columnist, went into Spike selling his cards, and he made a fortune, I think, over time. But I also think it's very important what the Saturnos did and the opportunity that they accepted in supporting the Handball Association over many years. I don't know how many there'll be now, but it's a good number, and that would make this sort of thing possible. That continuing interest that we had people like Jim Cormie in his warehouse putting up a painting a wall in his there for the game to be the one wall game to sort of continue to be fostered, I suppose, because as someone said, really this is possibly the future is the one wall, the five as they used to call it in England. So there were those sort of continuing sort of interest for so many people. So that it's been a great time for us to sort of come here today, for me to come here and see these. Of course, not that I played a great deal of one wall because I passed that stage, but I certainly played my last game that I played was in Edmonton in Canada, and that makes me think, and I keep reflecting on things. Dom Morabito, Dom's here today. We took him. He was a student at CBC. In my last few years of teaching, I was at CBC, and we had a wall in the car park out the back of CBC where we trained, and then went up and John O'Hearn's supported us on a Friday competition we had. It was excellent and sort of developed sort of young handballers. So there are all those things. But myself, when Bob asked me, you start to think about things, and one of the things that I thought about was the great time after those initial sort of years of there was playing under the Beast. I don't know whether the Beast yet. He is here, all right, my fantastic sort of captain that led us to so many victories over those years, 9 in about 10 or 12 years, wasn't it? Really, fantastic to sort of work with someone like that. And handball meant so much to me. My son, who was the senior school champion, myself, I always think that the game, the first victory I ever had was on the east court of the CBC, where I played John Cale in the junior school or the under-13 handball champions on that side court. I remember the bricks, the other one was cemented. Somebody would remember those, of course. And so that was a great thing. He, of course, was a great Port Adelaide captain and coach. So I'm continually sort of thinking about these sorts of things when Bob sort of mentioned about coming along and filling in the places for those other two great fathers of handball. Joe, of course, a brilliant sort of handball there, but the flat bucket Joe, legendary, and so on. So I'd just like to say we really need to congratulate the people that have got this developed. And it's not just one or two. There are some, of course, that always present more energy and more ideas, and that's part of what it's all about. But I think so many people have contributed to this whole exercise that really they all need to be congratulated. And the history that's sort of made today is something for them to keep in mind. So well done, guys.
Thanks, brother.
And ladies and gentlemen, we thought we'd invite someone out to speak about the future. And we have a player amongst us. I think his last name's Raimondo. It could be the player, I'm not too sure. Giordano is an ambitious, creative, capable player with championships already written in our history books, and notches. He's has some notches in his belt. Me being one of them, but his father being another one in official play. Giordano, we wanted to invite you out just to speak a little bit about your vision for the future in handball. Thank you.
Hi everyone, as said, my name is Giordano, and I'd like to welcome you all to the very first One More competition here at the City West Courts. Firstly, on behalf of all the juniors, I'd like to congratulate the South Australian Handball Association for their efforts with providing us these new international standard courts for all of us to play on. Today, however, I have been asked to share my thoughts on what these courts mean to me as a junior handballer. Personally, I've always enjoyed handball. Both watching and playing is always very rewarding and, in my opinion, a great way to spend your weekend. 3.5 years ago, my handball journey started up at Rostrevor College. And since every Saturday that I remember, I would be up there with my brother watching my dad smash the ball with his mates. Eventually I started to learn the rules and play the occasional pennant game. And fortunately, many experienced players were always there assisting and supporting me so that I could get better and reach my potential. Junior handball to me has always been a respectable and iconic competition. You don't often get the chance to play for national titles against players from interstate and overseas, whilst forming close relationships with them. Yes, our numbers are not exceedingly high, however, I believe that handball wouldn't be as good if the community wasn't as strong as it is now. Fortunately, we already have many talented and dedicated players from each state here today that come week after week to play this thrilling game. I believe that now we are even more fortunate to have these new courts on such a nice location right behind a major high school and open to the public. With these new courts, I hope we see an increase in the number of players, ultimately drawing together more passionate players for the game we all love. Thank you, and I hope we all have a great tournament. Best of luck to the South Australian men.
Thank you, Giordano, and to John for your words. Well, it's time to do the official opening. What shall we do? Cut a ribbon? Should we swing a bottle of champagne against the courts? Shall we open, reveal a plaque? No, Bob had another idea. So I wanted to do the organisation, but Bob said no, he'll organise. So we now wanted to undergo the official opening of the courts.
Well, actually, no politician wanted to come today, and we couldn't find a more better opening than future handball courts than asking all the junior players that are involved in the tournament this weekend to step forward on the line with the ball and officially declare the courts open by their butting against the wall. So could we have all the junior players up? Harry? Anyone else?
Hey, Harry.
Bob, Christy. Christy. Come on, Christy.
Line up on the line, guys. Come on, Christy, you're involved.
Let me take a photo.
Go this way. Spread out, guys, spread out. Spread out. Give yourself room to butt.
Where's my miss?
It's my pleasure now to announce that the City West handball courts officially open and wish the boys best of butting. Go for it.
Beautiful, Bob. Somebody got a butt. You're all weekend.
That's coming up against you next, mate. That's coming up against you next.
Now, Chris and Rory, we're just about to go. I know you're ready to get on the court. Ladies and gentlemen, we now have the Australian Open One World Singles Championship to be played. Amazingly, there's not an Australian accent on that court. Two Irishmen are going to be playing off, which we are delighted to welcome them and to celebrate handball with their standard of play. But we begin our game. Firstly, there will be some food organised in just a moment, and we're getting some sandwiches in so that you'll be able to enjoy some food as it's all going. But David, are you right?
You've got to sing just before they warm up.
Okay. So we're going to now just get about 5 minutes of warm up, gentlemen, and then we actually sing our national anthem, and then the game begins. So, not the... No, we do it before. Okay, so about 5 minutes, everybody. Thank you.